Out there and welcome to the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. We're back again from San Antonio. I have a smooth, sultry voice because I'm very close to the mic. And with me is Jim and Matt, and I'm Kai, by the way. We're doing our podcast from San Antonio, me and Jim. Matthew is still in Chicago. He didn't want to come to the Final Four this year. Shame on him. Matthew, your excuse is?
I have a few, still pending approval, obviously. But just the fact that it was not a very intriguing Final Four, Kai, I was hoping for bigger names, better teams. So enjoy the mid-major Cinderella affair you guys have to deal with there, Jim. So that's chief among my excuses. Just no interest for me. Bad teams.
Yeah, you were really hoping for a team that you actually cared about, not your
and a team I like. Yeah,
childhood love.
I do
team,
hate Duke
yeah.
though. I do hate Duke. So I'm protesting my presence
With
by
a
Duke playing.
generational player and a generational team. It was just not quite enough for you. The hooks didn't get in, Matthew. That's too
Hey,
bad.
it's a likable Duke team. Can we agree on that this year? It's the most likable Duke team since Zion. Thoughts?
It is
Yeah.
not unlikable. That's what I'll give you.
Yes, very good, Jim. Yes. Hello out there, by the way. Yes, so our rundown today is going to be Final Four talk, of course. We're going to do some takeaways of the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight. Just give a quick couple thoughts on how that went. Spoiler, poorly for every single team, not in the Final Four. We're going to do some news and notes for Roots Roundup, mostly coaching, catch you up on the carousel a little bit. And then we'll probably just send you on your way. It's going to be a fairly tight show. I would say maybe an hour. We'll see. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Before we get into it, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are going live right now. That is Three Man Weave. Check it out. Google it. We are at 3MW_CBB on Twitter, on Instagram. Oh, you know we're going to have some really cool photos on Instagram coming up from the Final Four. The content, I just can't imagine what it's going to be. It's going to be tons of fun. And then also please join the Discord. That is where we will be all off season and during the season, of course. That is with Trilly Donovan. He is wonderful. He is the scoop breaker. He knows the portal stuff way before everybody else. The Keyshawn Hall to Auburn was days before it got on Twitter. If you're into that sort of thing, if you're into the portal stuff, the coaching news, it is a perfect time to join the Burner Ball Discord. That link is in the description of the YouTube video, so please do check it out. $6 a month. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Not bad at all. I believe he had a guy committing to a school before he even entered the portal. So yeah,
Yes.
there's some heavy scoops in there. And Kai, we're in there analyzing all these transfer fits. So
Yes.
if you want our input, we are talking like every fit. We're not going to be able to get to all of them on the pod, but in the Discord, that's where you get our write-ups. You can ask us questions about a guy you're hoping you get, all kinds of that in there. So definitely join.
Yes, Jim's done a great job of pioneering, of spearheading the portal analysis. So Matt and I will try to jump in more and get more thoughts in there, but that is where you can find it. All our thoughts on the portal, and we'll talk about the transfer portal way more during the offseason. This episode, not so much, but we will do some coaching news, and that's a good segue. Let's get into Roots Roundup and start the show.
Let's do it, Kai. Roots Roundup, big news and notes section here. But before we do, we got to give a quick shout out to CBB Analytics, Matthias, a wonderful website that has been a huge help to me in this portal analysis we're working on.
Yes, it is, Jim. We almost should be including like the shot chart screenshots, the on-off stuff that we cite so frequently. In my opinion, there is no better time to subscribe to our fine sponsor, CBB Analytics. When it comes to visualizing some of the player and team trends, as you kind of go through this portal chaos, this is the go-to tool to see who is what type of player, how they're going to fit with so-and-so from a team perspective, from a player perspective. And again, I always like to cite how you can contextualize and filter all these stats. A lot of these guys transferring up, how do they do against Q1, Q2 teams individually? Specifically, you can actually look at shot charts isolated by those filters, look at team defense as well on the other end, home array, just all that good stuff that I think is so important during this portal era. And Nick and the guys continue to roll out new features every day. Please sign up today. Use our promo code when you do, WEAVE, for $40 off a user tier subscription and pro tier for all coaches out there. You should already be involved. If you're not, reach out to us. We'll get you hooked up because, again, the NIL tool that Nick added, a good budgeting projection tool to kind of see where your budget stacks up with others and allows you to kind of, play with some loose numbers in building your roster. Although, guys, I don't know what budget makes sense anymore. So the numbers we're hearing tossed around. So this system might be broken for the next week or two until this whole house settlement thing cools. But anyway, CB Analytics, check it out today. Join.
Yeah, I would say that your budget is lower than Louisville. That's all. That's you can start from there and figure it out from the rest. That's probably your number one right now. Okay, key headlines. St. Francis, right after making the NCAA tournament for the first time since the 90s, Rob Krimmel, big great story there. They're dropping down to Division 3, leaving us in Division 1. This is the Hartford corollary of see ya, we're going to bail, we're hitting the eject button. Kai, they've got one more lame duck season as a Division 1 team. Everyone on the roster has transferred. Krimmel retired. They've got a new coach. It is going to be a horrific team next year. I can't believe they're still playing D1.
Yeah, I'm looking back at the Hartford final year was quite bad.
Oh,
They were
it was really bad.
if they weren't the worst team in the country, they were right there. I'm like, it's like 362, the second worst team in the country. That's probably what's in store for St. Francis. It's a shame that we're seeing teams, I guess, leave D1. We always kind of complain about the new teams coming in, but it almost hurts, Jim, seeing teams go away and saying goodbye. I don't like saying goodbye.
Yeah, well, it's tough that it's right after they had all this success. Like there are so many other schools that should be bailing, not St. Francis after they won. Kai, was the team that was worse than Hartford, was it LIU?
Yes, it was, Jim. Very good.
All right. It's not Mississippi Valley State. Shout out Delta Devs, not in the basement. But yeah, this is surprising. Krimmel, he's too young to retire, but hey, he's doing it anyways. So just getting into a new world after the school that he was at for 20 plus years as a player, coach, head coach, assistant, abandoned them and went down to Division 3. Other big headline, congrats to Chattanooga. The Mocs won the NIT last night in an incredibly dramatic game. I believe Jordan Majeski called it the best game of the entire postseason, and he's probably right. Back and forth, high scoring, shot making. Matt, there was some idiocy late in the game that really frustrated us. UC Irvine led the entire second half until the final 30 seconds. Pretty frustrating, but hey, good game at least. And Dan Earl is awesome, so I'm happy for him and Trey Bonham and Hunter Huff.
This is a great blueprint for the NIT if they could continue to attract. They're not going to get a ton of mid majors every year that get full commitment, have full, but like when you get 4 or 5 every year, it seems like, Chattanooga and Irvine both had quote unquote special type seasons. You can get these teams just like Indiana State, right? It's sort of a shot of redemption. And for the non-power 6 teams, it still feels like a legitimate championship pursuit. And the celebration after Chattanooga won was like, it clearly was not just like not like the CBI title where I think guys just kind of shake hands and all right, that was cool. And then hit home. So yeah, no, it matters. NIT matters. NIT too. Shouts to your work and your coverage once again.
Chattanooga, second top 100 KenPom finish in the site's history. So congrats to Dan Earl. Also, 29 wins might be a program record. I need to double check my facts there, but at least in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that team was fun. Kai, we talked about it last night, how they took a while to mesh. It was frustrating in the non-conference, but they won the regular season in the SoCon. Might have won the tournament had Frank Champion not gotten hurt like the night before they played in a shoot-around. So good to see the Mocs get them go out on top of the NIT. All right, let's talk coaching, guys, because there's quite a bit of news to update here. First, the worst-kept secret in the entire sport. Villanova gets Kevin Willard. Everybody knew it was going to happen before the Maryland game, although reports that he was considering staying until Maryland fans started booing him, and he was like, all right, I'm out. Screw this. A whole bunch of drama around this. Len Elmore wrote a letter saying, we need a Maryland man to take over.
Steve Blake.
Good for Len.
But Kai, quick thoughts on Willard headed to Villanova, back to the Big East, where he was at Seton Hall.
I had this question in the Discord, Jim, and I posed it to other people. Is Villanova a better job than Maryland? I think most people would probably say yes, but it still seems a little bit lateral. You could argue the travel is way better, and it definitely is, because you don't have to go to the West Coast to play UCLA in conference, for instance. Yeah, it's a fine hire. I think Willard's a pretty good coach, and he had a lot of success at Seton Hall. He did very well with Maryland this season. I think Villanova probably could have gotten somebody quote-unquote better, but I don't really have a name for you, so I'd say it's a B hire, maybe B minus. For Willard, yeah, I guess it's a fine career move. Villanova probably has more NIL, but gosh, he didn't have any trouble getting some pretty big names this past offseason at Maryland, so I'm not sure the Terps are really struggling for money either. So kind of a weird shrug for me, I suppose.
I just think usually when you don't really understand it, it comes down to an AD relationship
Exactly.
issue. And in
Yes.
this case, there basically wasn't an AD. And Willard is, I think, renowned as being a guy who is not petty, but like ultra competitive and will quickly, like the fact that the fan thing actually swayed him is sort of, I think, on brand with what people have said about Willard. But hey, ultra competitive dude. I think he's proven he can win. He had a program with less resources. Now he has more resources. Jim, and I think the bigger thing is the Big East, I think, is getting momentum relative to these other schools that are sort of conflicted in where their interests are, football or basketball. Curious how that money pie shakes out the next 3 to 5 years. But it does feel like that. And Richard Pitino, to Xavier, mentioned that same thing as well. I think he likes the Big East momentum with sort of the, they don't have to deal with the football conflict for the tug of war of the money pot coming their way.
Yeah, once revenue sharing starts, that is supposed to be and probably should be a huge edge for Big East schools that they're just like, all right, we've got pretty much all the pie. We can take a huge chunk of it, and perhaps Willard is really trying to get ahead of that. And look, remember the rosters that Neptune built? Like they were clearly full of NIL. Like he was reeling in big time transfers before maybe the donors sort of lost faith in him last year. But they kept Eric Dixon, so there was certainly some money there. And it seems like there will be plenty going forward. Now, on the pivot of this, backfilling for Kevin Willard, Buzz Williams, the headhunter of a job searcher here, 6 or 7 years, and he moves on. That seems to be the tradition here. Now he is heading to College Park, not the Maryland man that Mr. Elmore was begging for in his open letter, but a guy who is pretty high floor. Matt, you love Texas A&M coming into this year. He's going to theoretically maybe bring a couple guys with him. He's going to bring that identity. We know how Texas A&M is going to play. Matthew, your thoughts here?
Yeah, Buzz is a solid hire. Buzz has always been a solid hire, right? He's never been a bad hire. I'd argue he's actually been a very good to even neighboring a great hire in Virginia Tech. What he elevated that program to. So I think it's a really solid. I mean, if you're a Maryland fan, I can see how you're probably like, eh. But I think the bigger take is Buzz leaving A&M just seems like that, like my whole football thing. That seems like a job where it doesn't feel like it's a great basketball job, even though they have money galore. Again, I don't. Some of these where it's like, even though football drives the bus, like there's still huge pots of money left over for basketball. Like, why does it really matter what the priority is? I don't know. Very confused by this one though as well, Jim. It does feel like the A&M hire will ultimately be someone maybe a little bit underwhelming, which is shocking given I think the finances we thought they were dealing with, the allure I thought that program had.
Yeah, they got leveraged by Chris Beard. Chris Beard did not end up joining them in Oxford, or did not leave Oxford and did not go to College Station.
That's fairly telling. You turned down A&M to stay at Oxford. I think that's interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Other big names, a couple in the Mountain West. New Mexico went to the UC San Diego domination train and picked Eric Olin to replace Richard Pitino. I think generally we like this. UCSD stopped the carousel by promoting internally Clint Ballard. Kai, I think we're going to see some pretty good teams continue in the pit with Olin in charge.
Yeah, a hire, fantastic. He did fantastic at UC San Diego, building that program in D1 so quickly to, heck, almost beating Michigan in the first round. Fantastic season. Yes, great hire by New Mexico. They should be successful once again.
Yeah, they were like 30-1 their last year of Division II, and then 5 years into their first year of eligibility for the NCAA tournament, there they are making it in a top 50 KenPom team. That's like borderline impossible to do. So shout out to Eric Olin. Colorado State promoted internally as well. Kai, do you know this name? Ali Farokhmanesh?
Yeah,
you heard that one?
I've heard of him. Yeah, he's a tournament shot guy, right?
Noted Kansas killer, Ali Farokhmanesh. Yes, I think this one made a lot of sense. It was widely speculated, even when Medved was getting talked about for other jobs like 2 years ago. They were like, all right, Colorado State's got a pretty good succession plan with Ali F waiting in the wings, so Colorado State keeps some stability. In the world of Drake, where they continue to hire great coaches, Eric Henderson, Matthias from South Dakota State. They plucked him from the Summit League. SDSU promoted internally with Brian Peterson. But Matthew, does Eric Henderson continue the gravy train that is Drake basketball at this point?
I think he does. I'd argue he's a slight notch below McCollum and maybe a slight notch below DeVries, but I don't know, man. I think it's a really good hire for Drake. I think if you're a Drake fan, you feel You kind of hit the lotto with your last three. I think you're looking at this one and feeling like there's not a major step down. So props to them. I do love Farouk Manesh at Colorado State. We'll see if he can get dudes there, Kai. But I think he's well regarded as a key brainchild to the Nico operation.
Is Kerry Booth a dude, Matthew? That's the question.
Dude in
the Mountain West,
D,
yeah,
dude.
maybe.
Could be.
Yeah.
Fordham went across the country and brought Mike Magpeo back to New York City. Originally a Columbia coach on the Kyle Smith staff, one of the greater brain trusts you'll ever see, just based on where all those guys have ended up. One of them in the Final Four, Mr. Golden. Matthew, I know you love this. You're a Magpie guy. We kind of all are Magpie guys.
Yeah, he won the presser, Jim. Absolutely dominated the press conference. So far, coaches are batting 1,000 in their press conference battles, but Magpeo covered with these. Yeah, his whole NYC connections. He's back on the East Coast. He's just a really good coach, and I think he'll have a good staff. He just has a good outlook on how to build a program with obvious limitations, like Fordham. I think they're going to be competitive. They're not going to probably dominate the A10, but he brought Riverside to competence. That program was basically about to go to D2. I think he'll be successful-ish at Fordham relative to the expectations.
Yeah, they came into D1 in 2001. He's had 4 of the 5 best seasons, 5 of the best 7 per KenPom. So yeah, you can win at Riverside. You can win pretty much anywhere. This is a great hire for Fordham.
If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, Kai. That's what they say. In New York. There we go. He's back in New York.
So also Magpies beat Oregon, correct? No, they didn't. That's right.
No, they did not beat.
You're
just talking about biggest wins of the year? Yeah.
Colorado State this year, and I thought he had one more giant killer. He won at Arizona State that one year.
Yeah, with the buzzer beater from
that's right.
The other end of the floor.
Yeah.
Yep. So overall, great hire, Magpie. We will dwell on that almost more than pretty much anybody else, I would say. Arkansas State went back to the Nate Oates assistant well after Brian Hodgson worked out very well. Ryan Pannone made a lot of sense. From young 40-year-old guy with a ton of different wide-ranging coaching experience, but super widely respected as a great basketball mind. Would think the Red Wolves continue to excel under Mr. Pannone. And a welcome back to Jamian Christian, who used to be a D1 coach and was in the exile of foreign basketball across the pond. He's now back at Bryant, replacing Phil Martelli Jr. So yeah, big one there. Kai, any thoughts on Mr. Christian? We played some pickup hoops with him a couple of years back.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. He made 2 tournaments at Mount St. Mary's. He spent 1 season at Siena, and then he did not great at George Washington, if we're going to be honest. But I think this is a fine hire for Bryant. He's got a lot of experience, and he's been to the tournament before in small leagues. So I like it. Congrats to Jamian.
Yeah, seems like a solid, just right down the middle, solid hire. And then Alabama A&M. Maddie, what's happening in the SWAC? You are the SWAC coaching expert. Alabama A&M picks off Dante Jackson from Grambling State. You kind of assume this is always money, or as you said earlier, Matt, could be an AD relationship thing. But between Alcorn losing Landon Bussey to Chicago State and Grambling losing Dante Jackson to Alabama A&M, it's been a wild carousel in your SWAC.
Yeah, I don't quite. There's a lot of everyone. It's a pretty tight knit community, obviously. So there's some. You're always like 1 or 2 text away from like a potential AD connection at another school in this league. So I'm not surprised we're seeing some musical chairs, I suppose.
And then lastly, another one of Matt's near and dear to his heart, Tony Barbie at Central Michigan is out after, was it 5 years? I remember when Eastern Michigan hired Stan Heath and Central Michigan hired Tony Barbie in the same offseason. And it was like, all right. And one of them's already done, and I'm not sure Eastern Michigan's got a whole lot of Stan Heath left, Matthias.
No, it's funny. I thought Barbie actually did not an okay job, but they were just bad in some late games this year, which is probably a coaching thing. But they were much better, I thought, than their 14-7. I cannot believe they did not finish 500 in this year's MAC. That was team was good enough too. Obviously, a healthy Boopy Miller Kai may have changed his trajectory for a whole year. Obviously, a pretty good player. Sure. So, but kind of how it goes, mid-major. Your margin for error is thin at that level.
You can't lose to NIU in the last game of the year to make the MAC tournament.
A team had 4 players. Can't lose that ball game. Double OT too. You got to be double OT. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's the game that ended on the pass shot. that
That's right.
is not even a game-winning shot. So a really, really tough way to go out there for Mr. Barbie. Them beating George Mason at George Mason was one of the more confusing results of the entire season. So that one, speaking of close games, somehow they got it done against Tony Skinn, who
They almost beat Minnesota at Minnesota too. This team was decent. Decent. I'll say it,
they came
decent.
back from like down 30 at Marquette to make it a real game. So yeah, they just lost whatever flow they had as they got into league play. So we'll see what the Chippewas do in the carousel again. We will have a full coaching higher grades pod in the offseason. It'll be an hour of just coaching, chopping it up. Matt will give A's, Kai and I will give B's and C's, and everybody will love it.
My portal takes have been too many A's, Jim. I'm a little too O per E right now in my assessments. But I feel like at this point, no one really knows if it's a bad fit because no one's on the roster. So it's like, yeah, it could work.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. There's always okay, there's potential. I don't know. It's one of those things where a guy goes through the portal and it's like, well, now he comes out looking even shinier. Like, hey, he's in the portal, so he must be awesome. Like if Iowa brought back Owen Freeman and Josh Dix, people would be like, whatever, shrug.
Yeah.
And now that they're on Creighton, it's like, whoa, holy crap.
Great fit.
So, yep. Quick recruiting shout out: 5-star small forward Koa Pete is headed to Arizona. Great name here because like a year ago in the Discord, Trilly got auto-corrected to Koala Pete, and that's now all I think of for him. So Kai, he is a koala bear. You're going to have to cheer for him as a bear guy.
Yeah, I'm a big bear guy, Jim. I love bears. I really hope he succeeds at Arizona. And hey, no more Caleb Love in college basketball, so maybe that's a good thing for the Wildcats going forward.
Hey, not the way he played at the end of his final game. Shout out to Caleb Love actually ending his career on not a 5 for 21 performance. So people didn't get to dunk on him on his way out. And then also Ryan Odom got his first recruit at Virginia, 4-star center Silas Barksdale, top 100 guy. Get it started because that roster is bleak right now, Mr. Odom, starting from scratch in Charlottesville. Transfers, obviously, there are a million. We're not going to go through them on here because it'd just be way too many to cover. We will do a winners and losers pod as we get into the offseason, as that dust sort of settles. We'll talk about that and teams that ended up with the best hauls, the worst net impact from the portal. And again, if you want guy by guy discussion, we've got that in the Discord. We are, writing 250 words on every single guy that we can. And we were up to like 75 already, 9,000 words in the document. It's only going to get bigger and better from there. So if you want individual portal discussion, get in the Discord, Burner Ball, $6 a month. Well worth it between everything you get from there. All right, Kai, that is it for the roundup. No real random news and notes. We're pumped to get to the arena today. But before we do, we got to take a little look back on the weekend that was.
We saw that, Jim. Is where we're going next. Yes. The second weekend was fine. We had one really good game. We'll get to it last. But starting off here, Houston, Tennessee. Let's take you back to the Elite Eight really quick. I guess we're not talking about the Sweet 16 a whole lot. The Elite Eight's more fun. Houston smoked the Vols. It helped that Tennessee went like 5 for 29 from 3. The game was gross, 59 possessions, 119 points. And Jim, it's hard to win if you score 15 points in the first half, like Tennessee did.
Yeah, it was ugly. UGLY, no alibi for the Vols in the first half. 15 first half points, the fewest by 1 or 2 seed ever in a half all time in the NCAA tournament. That is horrific. It was the fewest points in the first half by any Elite Eight team ever in a game. So just really the kinds of records you don't want to be setting as the Vols. They got it to like 10 in the second half, and you're like, maybe Houston will let them back in because they struggled to close out Purdue. They kind of struggled to close out Gonzaga, but not this one. Emmanuel Sharp got open for a couple threes, shoved the dagger right into the Vols, and even as they were trying to play the foul game late, they were like throwing up bricks and air balls, and it was like, I think you let this one go. Matt, my lasting image from this game will just be Ziegler standing up in the post-game presser and giving Rick Barnes like a really long hug. Cool. 5 years playing for the guy. He was like a emergency recruit when they first got him. It was like, we might need point guard depth. We'll just bring in this random guy 2 months before the season. And he ends up being like an all-time player at Tennessee. So that was cool. Good to see the love between a guy that stayed his entire career at one school and made a huge impact.
I can't believe I found myself rooting for Rick Barnes, but I do feel like that moment sort of solidified. I do think he's owed he is bound to get over that hump. Kai, I think he's earned it at this point with some of the heartbreak they've taken. The Purdue game just continues to burn in my brain. No justice for the Vols this time around.
Matt, is Houston a good team?
Yeah, they're a great team.
Okay, just
Hey,
checking.
Kai, who's better, Florida or Auburn?
I don't know. We'll talk about that
Oh,
soon.
stop it!
Florida right now.
Stop it!
Right now,
I'll
Florida.
wave my white flag if you wave yours. Yes, Houston's a great team. I certainly doubted them.
Ooh.
But they're, and I mean the fact they won like two kind of road games,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that Purdue game was a straight road game, and the Tennessee fans I think dominated the crowd there. So, but hey, they won every Big 12 road game. Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive.
Pretty
indeed.
impressive.
One more plea to the NCAA to never do that setup for the Elite Eight in Sweet 16 again. The camera angle was horrid at Indianapolis. You felt
Yeah,
like
try
you
to do
weren't
like
there.
an NBA like where it's bright and then dark and I hate that too. I'm not a fan of that. That's
See,
just not for our
I don't
game.
mind the lighting. It was the angle was way too
Angle was
high.
terrible,
You
too.
just
Yeah.
and they kept like zooming way out. You're like, this isn't helpful. And when you would contrast it to the other Sweet 16 sites, it looked so different because they're at basketball arenas with, a designed camera nook for basketball angles. And we gotta whatever with the Final Four. I know you have to do it to get people in the stands, but Sweet 16 Elite Eight has to be in basketball arenas.
Totally agree. Very good, Jim. I'm excited to see the Alamo Dome. By the way, I've never been. I assume it's a little bit better than a Super Bowl or a NFL arena. Yes,
Not as
better.
dauntingly huge, I don't think. From my
You will remember it,
recollection.
Kai. You will remember the Alamo
I
Dome.
will indeed. And Sparty certainly remembers Auburn because the Tigers beat them. They led pretty much the entire game, despite shooting like 50% from the free throw line. Janai Broom, Matt, was the story going down with a really gross ankle injury. There was a lot of speculation he was done like immediately. And didn't he have like a shoulder thing too? I mean, the guy was banged up
Yep.
in that game. He still came back and he he grabbed a rebound. He hit a three. Very impressive resiliency from Broom. Apparently he's 100%. Thoughts on that game?
I mean, the Broom, he missed a lot of bunnies.
I thought
Yeah,
he
go
had
ahead.
two season-ending injuries on that play. His
Yeah,
elbow and knee both hyperextended. I was like, ugh.
I just don't think whatever he says, I don't think he's 100%. And like, that's just like, he's dealt with insane, like the fact he's even out there is crazy. For people who are probably annoyed with Auburn and like the whole Broom and Pearl thing, I mean, I do think sort of like the Ziegler Barnes, there is a real connection with Broom and Pearl. And there is a little bit of that kind of older connectivity and guys just wanting to go out there and gut it out. But man, his finishing has been questionable. And I think that's where I look ahead to kind of this next game is how effective is he? Dylan Cardwell, I think, is going to be the X factor coming up here.
Matt, do you think that was back to regular season Auburn? Like are we close to that form? I mean, they've
90%.
2 seed
Yeah.
by 10, like the whole game, basically 5 to 10.
I think so. We haven't seen them get like absolutely insanely hot from three, which we know they can. And I don't think we're going to see Broom at his 100% dominant self. Still can be a terrifically effective player and, kind of bend the defense from the inside with his size. But I just don't think they don't have that, like that kill shot weapon. We're going to post you up, ISO you, and you have to come double Broom because he's just too big. I just don't think Broom is that. He's just not that healthy right now. So that's I think that 95%, Jim, and that might be good enough to win the whole thing because they're that good.
Yeah, I would say people complain about lack of upsets in this tournament. How about the biggest upset being Chad Baker-Mazara has not done anything insane, and he's also not had like a crazy offensive game. Like he had 17 against Creighton, but 6 against Michigan, 6 against Michigan State. He was just like a guy out there, which is never what Chad Baker-Mazara is. He's either doing something crazy or he's doing, he's dominating offensively. Maybe we'll see that here at the Final Four, biggest stage.
I do hope so.
But I was impressed by the fact that he was able to be nondescript. That's not his normal MO.
Wait, he's restrained himself. Maybe this is a new Happy Gilmore.
Hey, there
Yes,
we go.
Yes. Okay. Duke, Alabama. Yeah, Duke annihilated Bama. Shocking. Alabama could not stop the Blue Devils. And Alabama found out, Jim, that shooting 8 for 32 from three is a lot different than shooting 25 for 51 from three. It was a beatdown. Duke won by 20. This team's really, really good.
Yeah, this was just a horrible matchup for Bama after like this comfy cozy matchup of BYU's defense going under screens and being like, we hope you can't make threes. Oh, you made 25 of them? You set the NCAA tournament record with 7 minutes left in the game? Okay, yeah, that was not good. But then Duke switching everything, Matthew, is just kind of like a real antidote to teams that are trying to beat you with ball movement. It's tough to do against Duke. You end up having to play a little bit more iso ball than you want to because you're just trying to pick on a mismatch, but there aren't any. Like, oh, we got our big man switched on to Sion James. That's not a huge edge. So yeah, Duke, the fact that their offense is now way better than their defense, it's one of the best offenses of all time. That's surprising to me because I thought defense was going to be their anchor this year, and I mean, they're clearly elite on that end too, but the offense's maturation and the action they're running now, like
Yeah,
you can
Shire. I
pull
mean,
out sets
yep.
and stuff and be like, holy crap, look what Duke is running. It's so impressive.
Yeah, this is, I think, Shire's kind of coronation into whatever you thought he was as a coach this time last year. We now have to put him in whatever tier above that is, right? We can go through what names that's with, but he is a better coach, and I think Duke is certainly playing with some strategery, as W would say. Kai, I mean, Knippel's been terrific. Proctor, the assertiveness, he's been awesome, and even their defense. Jim, you're right. Like Bama just put their head down and drove at him, and they just kind of kept their arms up, slid their feet, kind of pulled the chair out a few times. That's what, again, not to look too far ahead yet, but Houston's not a very tall, long team, right? So I wonder.
They're long. They're just not
they're
tall.
long. That's true. They are, because Tugler is,
long.
I mean, crazy long, and
Tugler,
but
yeah.
I wonder if against Duke's length, I wonder if that bothers them offensively. I'm curious. That's the one question I have with Houston's offense in this one, Kai. They have not played a team as long as Duke all year. No one has. Duke's just, I mean, they're insane. They're
Save those
incredible.
thoughts. Save those thoughts.
Save those thoughts. Did you guys see what Sampson said about Shire, which I thought was really perceptive? Was like, you know Shire's awesome and a great coach now because no one is like, oh, he replaced Coach K. Like there's like no mention of Coach K anymore. It's just like, this is a John Shire team. They're incredible. It's got his identity, his stamp on there, and it's not like, Hubert Davis replaced Roy Williams or Red Autry replaced Jim Boeheim. Like that's not the case anymore, and I think that's a huge credit to Shire.
John Shire is a great coach. John Shire has by far the most talented team in the country this year. Both things are true.
Yep, agree.
Okay, moving on. Florida, Texas Tech. This game was awesome. By far the best game. Florida was down 10 with 5 minutes to go. They were down 9 with 3 minutes to go. A 5.6% winning probability per KenPom in this game. But the Gators gutted it out. Walter Clayton has become a March star this season. 30 points. The guy's awesome. I'm happy for the Gators. Good to see them in San Antonio. Tommy Houck, big game as well. Awesome game, Jim, overall. The best game by far of the Elite Eight.
Yeah, it's great to see shot making. And like, I felt bad that Texas Tech had the 2 front end misses that led immediately to threes on the other end for Florida that let them back in it. Pretty heartbreaking. We were with our guy Stuckey at the Action Network event, and he was crushed because he had a big Texas Tech Final Four future, and he had advised a lot of people to take the same, and that just crumbled late. But it's this twice now where Florida has kind of erased a shaky performance with just unbelievable shot making down the stretch. And Clayton has the clutch gene. It's real, whether you like it or not. I think it matters. He is much more like big shot proven than anyone on Duke at this point, and kind of anyone on Auburn late in games. So if it does come down to it, you probably have to trust Florida's execution late in games and Florida's shot making and ability to create stuff with Clayton. So I was very impressed by that. I enjoyed it because we didn't get a lot of games where shot making took over and was the story late. So I appreciate the Gators for giving us that moment.
Yeah, and Tech was a great story too. Got McMillan back. He was awesome. Feel bad for D5, as they call him, Kai Darian Williams. Very likable dude. You could tell how much that hurt McCaslin, and that's it. It stinks because you just don't know when you're gonna get back there. And man, like to be right there against Florida, to have them on the doorstep. You could, like that. I just didn't think you'd ever see McCaslin that gutted, but I mean, obviously that was tough. And I don't know, wasn't bad coaching down the stretch, just bad execution. You got blitzed by Walter Clayton and just a really good Florida team that's been doing that in the second half to a lot of good teams this year.
Yeah, Texas Tech they'll be fine. Grant McCaslin's an incredible coach. They'll be back there, Matthew. I think someday soon perhaps, but not this year. We move on to the Final Four breakdown, fellas. But first, a message from our sponsor, Homefield Apparel, the best collegiate premium apparel in the entire world. Homefieldapparel.com. That's where you can shop the comfiest tees, hoodies, sweatshirts, joggers, everything you can think of, even hats. They have millions of schools on their site. That's an exaggeration, but they do have a ton of schools. They dig through years and years and years of archives to find out actual meaningful stuff to put on t-shirts for your school. I have maybe every single Mizzou gear they offer from the site, and I don't regret any purchase at all. They're all awesome. equally. I wear them all the time. Go to homefieldapparel.com today to shop your school. You can get 15% off your first order by using our promo code 3MW. That is home field, wear one for the team. Okay, fellas, Final Four breakdown. First of all, setting the scene. Best Final Four of all time, perhaps. The first all one seed Final Four since 2008. Top 4 teams in KenPom are all in the Final Four. All 4 KenPom teams rank in the top 10 in both offense and defense. Duke is top 5 on both ends. Auburn's top 8 on both ends. Florida's 10 in D, but they're 2-0. Houston, number 1 in defense, number 10 in offense. So that's kind of your spread there. And also, fun fact, fellas, Auburn has made 2 Final Fours in their history. The Weave has been at both Final Fours covering the event. We've only covered 5, so 40% of our Final Fours represent 100% of Auburn's trips to the ultimate college basketball event. Jim,
And
what
sadly,
do you think?
only 83.33333% attendance on those
Yes.
on those Final Fours, as we are missing our
Unfortunately.
dearest Matthew for this one. But yeah, I am
Travesty.
pumped for this. I know some people are just sad about the lack of upsets and lack of Cinderella runs. Tournaments go in waves. Like there will be probably a tournament in 2 years where it's a bunch of upsets. I know people are making this like a sweeping referendum on NIL and the tournament's forever changed and there's no way any team is going to be good again that's not a top 10. Yes, I think there will be some tilted towards better teams, but this is the last year of fifth-year guys just using their extra year transferring up. I saw someone, I think Kyle B in our Discord, say like Louisville's roster is going to look amazing at the end because there's just not as many guys like to pick out from the portal. So all these teams with empty rosters aren't really going to be able to build an awesome team, an all-star team, the way some people kind of could in the past. So I'm thrilled to have just 4 elite teams, the teams that were the 4 best the entire season. Florida, I guess, didn't play the elite non-conference schedule that somebody like Auburn did, but boy, did they prove it in league play down the stretch. I mean, they're on a freaking tear right now, late in the SEC and then into the SEC tournament. These teams are incredible. We've got 2 double champs, the ACC and the Big 12, and then we've got the split champs of the SEC, the 2 teams, the conference that was arguably the best ever. We've got your regular season title and your postseason title. So I am thrilled to see this, Matthew. I hope the games live up to it. I know people are talking it up like this is going to save this tournament. It's getting great games, and I'm not going to lament the tournament if suddenly, Duke wins by 8 and Florida wins by 9 or something, and it's not like all timers. But I'm glad these teams are here because it at least sets the stage for what could be epic.
Yeah, it's starting to feel more like college football, and I'm not that say it's good or bad. I kind of like this end of it where just there's so much hype surrounding the big games because they mean so much, and especially in basketball where, like in the professional level, they usually play 5 games or 7 games, but it's 1 game, right? So it's why it's at the top of the totem pole. I think it makes it so fun because really this should probably be like a 5-game series if we really wanted to know who is the best team, but it's 1 game and there's just so much leverage on every possession. So I hope the hype in real time feels like that. I hope the games deliver because I do think it could. Our games at the point where we could actually start to pull some college football diehards into more casuals, given I don't know, especially at the upper end of the spectrum, right? Obviously, the mid-major stuff is terrible. It's evil. We hate it. But at the upper end of the echelon, maybe we can attract some casuals, as we call them, so derogatory.
Everyone loves March. Everyone loves it.
Yeah, another little thing that people have contrasted this to 2023 a ton in the Final Four because it was 4 seed, 5 seed, 5 seed, 9 seed, and here we have all ones. But one similarity that I love is that no coach here has won the national title before. We've got a first-time national title winner coming in terms of the coach. Florida as a school has won it before, but Auburn has not. Houston has not. I think Duke has. I can't remember for sure.
Yeah.
But I like that we're going to get a new guy on that pedestal because we've had such a changing of the guard with a lot of the old hands retiring lately. We're going to get a new guy that can, compete with Dan Hurley for best rising coach right now. I guess Sampson and Pearl aren't rising, but if Shire or Golden get it, like they're going to be golden boys, pun intended.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, so apologies. But yeah, someone said Boomers versus Millennials. It's Sampson and Pearl versus Golden and Shire, the old guard and the new. So yeah, lots of fun little cute storylines, Jim, for the journos to write about. Let's talk games. A little breakdown here. Florida and Auburn. Last time I checked, Florida was a 2.5-point favorite. I think they're probably still around there. I haven't looked in a bit. These two teams did meet once this season. Florida won by 21 without Elijah Martin. It was very impressive, despite the fact that Auburn actually won the turnover battle, won the offensive rebound battle. It was Florida's interior defense that kind of led the way. And Matthew, personally, I think that's a pretty big edge for Florida, the front court, being able to throw so many bodies at Broome. An injured Broome, by the way. You mentioned he's not 100%. Yeah, I don't think he really is either. We got Condon, Chinyelu, Hauk, Hanlockton. So many guys you can just throw at that front court. I think it's a really big deal. And, of course, Walter Clayton. He is just a freaking stud, a star, a game breaker. I'm going with Florida here, but I'm very on the fence in terms of spread. I'm creeping towards the Gators every single second. Matthew, your thoughts?
I thought it was interesting. Pearl said that he thought Florida just played their A game at all. It's like we didn't play bad. They just were like awesome. And he talked about how he had been saying for a month. I remember like in December, he's like, this Florida team's awesome. So I think he respects them. I think he's sort of galvanized his troops. A lot of whom, Jim, you mentioned are kind of on their last rodeo. I think they have kind of that sort of or motivational mojo after a lot of people doubted them, frankly, myself included, coming in this tournament, given they kind of limped a little bit into the tournament. With the revenge angle after losing at home, a place they rarely lose. So that's my only concern. Everything else, so matchup wise, just on the X and O clipboard, I'm with Kai. I think the Florida matchup's good, right? Their depth up front, their size in the perimeter, and I just think they have more guys I trust. Both teams have sort of condensed their rotations down to like 7 to 8, but I like the guys Florida has really anchored on coming down the stretch here. So.
Yeah, Pearl talked about that in one of the interviews. I think he was like in studio at Turner. He's like, I typically like to play 9 or 10, and I've really had to cut it to like 7 this year. It's just those are the guys he trusts, and I don't know if it'll become a tradition for him going forward, because cutting it to 7 has made his team look amazing again, and the talent is, you always have elite talent on the floor. But yeah, the matchup here, I don't know. I think some of the stuff from that first matchup are a little sustainable. Like Florida's success on the offensive glass, Auburn is a big gamble for blocks kind of back or front court back line of their defense. Cardwell and Broome are chasing those constantly. I think Florida's going to get double-digit offensive rebounds. Do those turn into quick putbacks and open threes, or does Florida have to reset? That's a big thing to watch early on. But Kai, you mentioned it. Auburn won the offensive rebound battle. Like, they had more. They were able to find success there as well. But no Elijah Martin, no Hanlockton. Like, the fact that you're adding those to the equation is pretty wild. We'd be, not doing our due diligence as sort of betting discussions of saying Auburn closed like -11 in that game, and now they are a 2.5 point underdog and a neutral. Like that's a massive, massive swing. But it does speak to how good Florida has been basically since that day. Started them on a turbo rocket ship upwards.
Golden talked about that as like that was sort of the ignition switch to their whole season. Like, that's what they were really good then, and then they that's when it was like, okay, this team is a real team.
Yeah, like second half when they went on that massive run and got up 20, it's like, oh, this is how good we can be against this team. And that's when Auburn was, not flipping the switch. They were rolling. So it gave you pretty good evidence of how good Florida could be. I remember being shocked by that, Kai, with Martin out. Seeing that second half score. I think it was the same day Duke played Clemson, so I was pretty locked in on that game. But then just like seeing the bottom line, the score bug just tick up, like, Florida's up how much? What's happening? What's going on?
Yeah, insane.
One thing real quick, Pearl also mentioned this as well. Very interesting. Final 4, timeout, you get an extra, I think, minute or something. And then the halftime is extended by 5 minutes. Pearl mentioned that as like he thinks that actually could be like for Janai Broome, right? For a guy who's laboring, I think just a little extra in-game prep could help him kind of go the distance. He played 29 and 30 minutes the last 2 games. Fouled out against Michigan, but still, pretty damn dominant against Spartans, 25 and 14, only 20 minutes. I think he's going to play like 37 in this game, right? Like, if he's not in foul trouble. So I think that's going to, how effective is he in the second half is going to be a big key here.
Yeah, I have 2 points. I like Florida's gusto in the backcourt a little bit more than Auburn. So Martin is a man, a freaking like a guy I trust, I suppose. He's an experienced vet, and just like, I don't know, Jim. He's got that physical quality that I'm like, yeah, I'm not messing with that guy. I trust that guy.
He's a linebacker.
A linebacker is a good way to put
it. Yeah.
Walter Clayton is the ultimate MFer on the floor in this tournament. And as much as I love Pettiford and Bacon Rosario, I respect his game. I don't love the guy, but I like him as a player. I just think the Florida backcourt's better. Todd Golden and staff are known for their game planning. They do some interesting stuff on the defensive end sometimes. Will they let Broome beat them, say, all right, we're taking everyone else away, play Broome straight up, and say, go ahead, Janai, or will they try to take him away aggressively? My guess is the former, especially due to Broome's current state. But Jim, thoughts on that really quick?
Yeah, that's what Michigan State tried to do early. Like, let's guard Broome one-on-one and live and die by that. And he scored like 4 of the first 5 possessions. I don't think Simon Japala is the same defensive animal as Chinyalu and Handlockton and Condon, whose ankle is, also a slight concern. It's getting downplayed because Broome is such a big injury story. Condon was elite in the first matchup, like the best player on the court when these two teams played. But yeah, I think that's what they will err on the side of like, we can, if Broome's going to have 27 and 17 on a bum leg and bum shoulder and bum elbow, we'll live with that rather than a bunch of open threes for Pettiford and Baker Mazzara and stuff that really lights the Auburn momentum on fire. I think that's probably the strategy that I would take as well, especially with the stable of bigs they have where they can actually attempt that.
Okay, let's go to Duke Houston. Matt's alma mater, Duke, plays Houston. Kelvin Sampson, fantastic. That was joking, by the way, for people not familiar with our podcast. Matt did not go to Duke. He just loves Duke. Matt, do you still love Duke against a Houston team that, in my opinion, could match up pretty well because of their length? You mentioned, we mentioned they're not tall, but man, they're really, really long. They're really, really physical. Most physical team by far Duke will play because they are the most physical team in the country. Number 1 defense. Fun fact for those out there, these two teams have won 32 straight games. They are number 1 and number 2 in KenPom. They are very, very good. Last year they played in the Sweet 16, I believe it was, not the Elite Eight. I think I misspoke on the Action Pod about that. 56 possessions, 105 points. Shed got hurt. Duke really hung right with Houston on the glass. That's Houston's thing, and Duke stared at them and competed. They could definitely do that again. Your thoughts on this game from a betting perspective? This is around 4.5, 5 in favor of Duke. Go ahead, Matthew.
I think Houston has to either make shots like 13 of 30 from 3, or they need to really impose their will on the offensive glass. If they don't do either one of those two things, I don't feel like they score enough to keep pace with Duke. As good as their defense is, I think Duke's going to score enough with, I think, the execution improvement we've seen. They have bigger, longer guards to kind of throw over those blitzing double screens when they trap. And I think they're long at the rim. I don't think they're going to score inside, but I think they're long enough to finish. And Flag's just such a tough matchup, even though you could argue Tugler is probably Tugler. Sorry, Tugler is one of the best matchups you can find in the country to put on.
Player of the Year, by the way.
He's not going to shut down Cooper Flag, though. I don't think, is he? So
Matt disrespecting Mr. Burnside's Tugler.
Burnside.
Burnside.
So that's my thing, Jim. I'm gonna keep it simple. I think if Houston does not do one of those two things, I think Duke wins by 4 to 6. I think it's a lower possession game. Shire's going to accept, I think, a half court brawl, but Duke can win those. The only thing I keep fixating on is like the Clemson loss, right? Like I'm like looking at that game, dissecting it. Like there's something in that Clemson game where, and obviously Locken was a beast up front. He was the physical size gave Duke's front line some fits. Houston can certainly do that. I don't know if they're as offensively skilled or as big as, Locken's 7'1". That's just a weird unicorn type mismatch problem that as good as Houston's front line is, I don't think they're going to kill Duke on the glass on the offensive end. So I think Duke wins. I do. I don't feel like overly confident, but I think it's going to be an uphill sledding for a Houston team against Duke's talent and size.
Yeah, I've been trying to make comparisons to that game just because it's the last time Duke lost. And it's like, if we have a blueprint for beating Duke, that's kind of closest to it right now. And I thought Clemson kind of punked them physically, just like loose balls. And they only had 11 offensive rebounds, but watching that game, it felt like they had 20. Like they were just getting to everything. And Flag was out of it for 35 minutes. He was really off. He was great down the stretch, but he did have another late turnover. So you got to be able to put game pressure on Duke, make them prove that they can handle the ball and handle possessions late in the game when they've been so dominant and winning by 15 or 20 in every single game. I'm very much with you that this will be half court. I believe that pretty strongly. Duke has proven heavily to be a pace taker. I mean, the fact that they've played a 59 possession game and a 73 possession game in the tournament tells me like, all right, Baylor, you want to play a half court game? We will out execute you to death. Arizona, Alabama, you want to run with us? Watch this offense. Like you're in trouble. So I think if Houston says we're going to make this a physical brawl in the half court, Duke will run when they have a chance to, but generally they're just, I think, going to play to that style and trust that they're better at it than Houston is, which at this point, number two team in the country, are they better at it than them? I don't know. Spread wise, Kai, how do you get to five on any analytical ranking? Ken Palm's got a two. Bart Torrek's
Yeah.
got Houston like a nudge ahead.
Mhm.
That is a massive sign of respect to how talented Duke is, but I certainly lean Houston on the spread. Just you're giving me almost two possessions with the second best team. But I do fear Duke. I fear the runs they can go on, the shooting that they have spread around a playmaker like Flag. Houston is going to have to play different kinds of coverages. If they're trapping ball screens when Flag sets it and you're letting him run a 4-on-3 against the back line, Duke's going to get wide open shots every time.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sure Duke's going to take a little bit from the Purdue tape, the way Purdue attacked them in ball screens, went after them in the posts with Kaufman and Wren and tried to force the doubles to get open shots. I am intrigued, probably even way more so than Golden versus Pearl in the chess match of like adjustments that's going to happen in this game because I think both coaches and both teams are going to have to change and rechange and try different things.
Yeah, a big lean to the under for me in this game, Jim, because I do agree it's half court. It could be under 60 possessions. Like you said, Duke's comfortable playing it. That plays into Houston's hands. I don't see how Houston's going to score that easily against Duke besides shooting over the top because Duke has all that size. They can take away Juwan Roberts. They can compete on the glass. If they do, then it's okay, Houston's got to make threes. They're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. It's not really their first option, but they have the guards to do it. I think Houston competes in a half-court game. I don't think they want this to get up and down, so Duke's kind of playing into their hands from that perspective. And then you mentioned pressuring the ball handlers. Duke's gotten away with basically running point guards by committee and or guys that aren't really true point guards like Sion James. What happens when Houston turns up the pressure, the physicality, the way Kelvin Sampson's teams guard? Does that kind of spook Duke a little bit to start, or at least the first half, Matthew? Could. That's why I think it's going to be a slog and lean towards the under, and that's why I think Houston kind of hangs around.
The one other note I had from the Clemson comparison is that Clemson only took 10 threes in that game, which is really bizarre to me because you'd think it's like, all right, as Matt said, Houston probably needs to go like 13 of 30 over the top to score against this Duke defense, but that wasn't really what Clemson went to. And Clemson's a top 40 3-point percentage team. Like, it's not like they don't want to take threes. They can knock them down. They just ended up having to play through the paint. I think Duke's defense dictates that a little bit. We'll see if Houston can do that. If Roberts can score downhill, like going through Flag's chest, getting him at that ISO elbow, going to his left, that's going to be, I think, huge. Houston will probably try to test that early.
Yeah, and Duke's perimeter's incredibly long too, right? They can contest in those threes. It's going to be tough both ways for teams to score. Okay, let's do picks because this will be our.
I've been really non-committal. I should probably try to pick something.
Let's do bracket picks, spread picks if you want, because we're not going to pod again, obviously, before the championship game. Kai is going to shoot the thread through the needle here and go Duke over Houston, but Houston covers the 5.
I agree.
And Florida over Auburn. Duke is going to beat Florida in the championship, and we're going to have to watch John Shire cut down the nets, Matthew.
I agree. That's my exact copy-paste projection. I did, as I mentioned earlier, I took a little money line on both Auburn and Houston. Just feel like really simple. I think one of these teams is I guess, better or 50% chance to win. And you're getting plus money on two elite teams. I think one of them finds a way to win, at least. And if they both win, great. But that was sort of a little betting super galaxy brain stuff there, Jim. But that was kind of my thought.
But you're still taking Florida and Duke in our official picks here.
Yes. Okay. Value different from picks, Kai. Value different from picks. Yeah, I think Florida and Duke ultimately win, though. I think both are close games. I will generally be stunned if there's a blowout. Obviously, we say that. Good chance there probably is one. I would be stunned if there is a full-on runaway in either one of these games.
Yeah. I'm in a pickle because preseason I picked Auburn over Houston as my title pick. It's like, man, should I just dig my heels in and sound like a Nostradamus if that happens? But
yes,
that's not what my heart's telling me at this point, Kai. That's not my predicted. I think Florida gets by Auburn. I think people are maybe even a little bit down on them, especially betting wise, because they played 2 games that they arguably should have lost to UConn and Texas Tech. But I like the matchup for them. I think they've got more pieces than Auburn, and the Broom stuff does scare me just enough that I like Florida. I will pick Florida. I'm going to say Houston beats Duke in a echo of the 2015 Wisconsin over 38-0 unstoppable juggernaut Kentucky, where it's elite defense that might be the one thing that could be an antidote to this incredible Duke run. So that gives me Florida versus Houston. I'm going to say Kelvin Sampson gets the national title, the elusive one that Houston has never gotten. I thought, like in my head, I remembered Olajuwon winning a title, but he never did. So
Yeah, NC
say
State.
Sampson gets one, Houston gets one. Big one for the Cougars. That's my prediction. All right.
Jim, I love it, and I've picked Houston to win the title the last 2 years. Ironic that they would win this year. Actually, maybe I did pick them this year in our preseason pod. I probably did. Stick with your guns, I suppose. I'm not. Fellas, can we finish with a couple reviews just to knock them out while we have a little bit of time here? We've been a little behind. Join us next week, of course, for, you know what? We may not be coming next week. TBD. We're either going to take next week off or we're going to do next week, and we'll do a little recap. We'll let you know. Leave us reviews, of course, if you want to ask questions. We will do a bunch of wrap-ups and, of course, get in the transfer portal in a couple weeks further down the road and some more detailed coaching news, all that stuff. Okay, 3 reviews, fellas. First one from Dog Nasty, Weave, greater than sign, bracket committee. These are a little old, so bear with me. Please replace the current committee. Every year they show they don't know ball, watch ball, or care about getting the bracket correct. Seedings make no sense this year. UNC, no West Virginia. The madness should stay on the court this month. Also, even though UNC doesn't belong, they might make the Sweet 16 with the matchups they have. I thought so too. I thought they could have made it. UNC deserved to make it, fellas, obviously from an analytic perspective. Questionable on the resume, Jim. I would love to be on the bracket committee. Yes, make the Weave the committee.
Yeah, the Weave and Rocco Miller. Rocco sat in on all that stuff, and he kind of knows what they're doing. But I was surprised by a couple of these things too. Namely, I thought UNC would win, but when you shoot 20% worse from 3 than Ole Miss does, you're probably not going to get a victory there for the Heels. West Virginia not making it, I think, is still the biggest travesty of March, and trying to hide behind, because Tucker DeVries is hurt. Mm-hmm. Like they won like 3 of their Q1 games without Tucker DeVries. That was an absolute cop out, terrible stuff from the committee. And I think if you interrogated them under Truth Serum, they would lie or they would tell you that we just didn't want them. So, but yeah,
brutal
appreciate the review
for West Virginia fans. Brutal offseason.
Yeah, I mean 2 in a row, right? With Huggins. Okay, West Coast Yenzer says best in the business. Hi boys, I found out about your show from the Mark Titus show a couple years ago, and I've loved it ever since. That's fantastic. Yes, thanks, Titus. Love that you guys always show love to the smaller schools. They matter too. Yes, they do. Question: do you have a takeaway from Sprinkle's first year at Washington? I know it's going to take a few years to build up a competitive program, especially at a school focused on football, but curious if you've seen anything that gives you hope for the future. Seattle deserves good hoops again, and being there when they upset Maryland was one of the highlights of his year. Thanks. Matthew, I love Danny Sprinkle. I think he does have a bright future at Washington. We thought they'd be a little bit better this year than they were. The portal fits just didn't really fit, frankly. I think he's got a good start already on the next portal, and they clearly have some NIL money the way they're throwing it around. Your thoughts on Sprinkle?
Yeah, roster was a little bit watered down last year. I just don't think it was talented enough, and they had too many moving parts where it just never came together. So I think it's about the dudes going forward, and they have money. Well, let's see it be put to use, and because that was not a Big Ten caliber roster last year. I don't think upper end.
No, and some of the guys I thought would, were kind of savvy gets, like Mekhi Mason, I thought would look good. I thought DJ Davis was going to be a major weapon, and he had one of the weirdest years.
He was when healthy, but he wasn't.
But his mind wasn't right for some of it. He was really bad for most of it. And then, Mason wasn't quite as good as I had hoped for. Tyler Harris was good, not great.
Frank Hepnang, never healthy, was tough too. You had him healthy the whole year
Zoom
with
Diallo,
a better great and great Ospor. Let's not forget he was pretty atrocious his first 2 months of big
good
basketball.
Good Ospor.
Yeah, he was not in shape, it seemed, to start the year. And towards the end, he was still a juggernaut. But
he had his $2 million paycheck and did the NBA thing, just stopped lifting.
I would keep the faith with Sprinkle. I think there are much brighter days ahead.
Agreed. Finally, TJ Leff, not TJ Leaf, apparently. Excellent podcast. It's the most informative college basketball podcast around. Wow, love how the guys share the attention on the low, mid, and high majors throughout the year, make everyone feel equally important. Question here. Every year, my mom picks a college basketball boyfriend who she roots for during the tournament. It started when she felt bad for Gary McGee getting crossed up by Kemba, and has included players like Matt Stainbrook, Garrick Sherman, of all people. He balled out in the 6 overtime Notre Dame game, and most recently DJ Burns. Guys need to be kind of awkward, maybe a little big, rec specs preferred, but also needs to be an actual good player. What are her prospects for this year? Keep up the good work. Unfortunately, I don't think we had a lot of characters in the tournament this year that I'm thinking of. I would have said like the UC San Diego guys, Aniwa Jim would have been my first answer.
Time a guy. Yeah, that was right.
But
that's the right answer.
Anybody left in the Hauk is kind of goofy.
Yeah, Hauk is a little bit. It's sad that Wilhelm Breidenbach did not make the tournament because he would have been unreal perfect for this. He was at Washington in that sad factory, but he's in the portal, so maybe next year he'll be helping somebody as a role player, and he can be her crush in 2026. Yeah, I don't. Nobody really like immediately jumps to mind as like a big goober. Maybe Carson Cooper's tiny head for Michigan State would have been a good one. I always compare him to the Men in Black character whose head like has to grow back after Agent K shoots him. I guess maybe that's my best one.
Andrew Meadow, Boise. Watch The Crown.
Yeah,
they're still going.
That's true, but he doesn't have the hair anymore.
Yeah, he's just right. He shaved it. Yeah.
It's got like a buzz now.
Everyone left in this tournament is just an alpha male. I mean, they're just all peak physical humans. That's why they're all one seeds right now. Sorry your mom couldn't find a 2025 boyfriend, but
no, you know who it should be? It should be Olivier Roux, the 7'9" guy on Florida's bench. That should be her crush. Whenever Florida's 7-footers wander over to the huddle and they look like children compared to this guy, that's got to be the choice.
A Florida winning would be great just to see Roux cut down the nets with no ladder, as Zach Edey and Klingon both did. That would be great.
Yep.
Okay. Fellas, good podcast today. We got rid of the hangovers. Fantastic. Or at least mine is feeling slightly better. Jim and I are very hungry. We're going to go to the Riverwalk.
My heartburn is gone, most importantly. I was crippled before this started.
Thank you for joining us. Again, we might be back next week. Tune into Twitter, 3MW_CBB. Please do join the Discord. Again, the link is in the description of the podcast and the YouTube video. Lots of great information there. We're in there constantly chalking Portal. Truly's got all the scoops. But enjoy the Final Four. Enjoy the national championship.